Hello, it is Jean with Kept in Stitches, and this is Tip Demo Wednesday. And I have a different camera angle for you this evening because last week I showed you how to layer and pin baste this little quilt for hand quilting. And I got several requests to show how I hand quilt. So I am going to attempt to give you as best a view as I can this evening, um, demonstrating how I do hand quilt on a lap hoop that is positioned on top of my lap. It isn't quite at the angle I would normally be hand quilting at. So it's going to be a little slower and a little bit more difficult for me because just to be able to have this camera angle for you. So bear with me and I will try to make it as clear as I can for you to be able to see what I am doing. So first off, let me show you what I am using. And I am using Gutterman 100% cotton quilting, hand quilting thread. I'm using a pink on this quilt. It blends well with all the fabrics that are in this quilt. Um, I have a pair of little snips, scissors to be able to cut my thread with. I am using a Roxanne thimble from Colonial Needle Company. And this is just a little rubber tip on my index finger to help pull the needle through. And the needles that I use are S. Thomas and Sons. They are betweens, and I use a size 11. And these are also available at Colonial Needle Company, which I will leave a link for the things that I use in the description box below. And then I have this lovely wooden needle minder box that is magnetized that I have the extra needles in. That was a gift from a good friend of mine. So I have those there, and I have that all off to the side, handy and easy to grab as I need any of them. So I do use a lap hoop. As I said, I have my fabric, and I'm sorry, the bouncing up and down is to show you that it is loose, not taut in the frame. And that is so that I will be able to rock my needle back and forth. And I use the rocking motion when I hand quilt. So I already have started and quilted a little bit of this quilt, and I do not need to mark because I have decided for my quilting pattern for this particular quilt, I am going to stitch right down the middle of each. These are called logs. It is a concentric log cabin pattern. So I do not need to mark my hand quilting pattern that I will be doing. I'll just be using my eye and keeping a straight line right down the middle of these logs. And you start off, I already have my thread in here from where I have been quilting, but you start with your first stitch, the stitch length away from where you ended. And then I am going to be putting the needle straight down in the fabric. My other hand, my index finger is right below that needle so that I can feel it as it comes through the layers of fabric. And then I rock my needle back. My thumb is pushing down on the fabric at the same time that that needle is being forced up by my underneath finger on the bottom, which is making for, and I don't like how that came out. I'm right at the thick part where the seam is. And so I am going to adjust that a little because that was making just a tad too big of a stitch. I don't want it that big. Okay, and then I immediately rock it back forward, pushing down with my thimble. underneath finger is immediately pushing it back up, and my thumb and fingernail are bringing it up to the length of stitch that I want. And I know you probably can't quite see the tip of that needle, but I'm giving you the best view that I can. And then you pull it through. And you just load however many stitches are comfortable for you, or how many fit on your needle to where it won't be able to bend if you load too many on it. But it's just a rocking motion back and forth, pushing up with the underneath finger, pushing down with the top thumb, and using your fingernail to get the length of stitch that you want. And pulling them all through at once. And I have never had that happen before, but my thread broke. Luckily, we have long enough. That is the first time that has ever happened in all the years of hand quilting that I have done. But it's no problem because we still have enough thread. I'm just going to cut the end off there. I'm going to rethread that through the eye of the needle. And just continue on. Do not know why that happened. Like I said, that is a complete and total first. And because of the angle that I have for you, like I said, I am having a hard time because the camera is actually right in front of my face. I'm having to kind of look cross-eyed around it to see. And because of the angle, you can't tell on your end, but it is leaving a bit of a shadow from my hand on my stitching, because the light for you to be able to see right now is actually on the opposite side that I would normally have it, so that it doesn't cast that shadow. But you're just rocking the needle. We call it rocking. There is the stab method, which I do not use, and that would be one stitch at a time. You poke it through and then bring it up from the bottom back to the top and do one stitch at a time. I do the rocking stitch motion. And you can see I'm just with the thimble pushing just slightly on the needle, pushing up with my bottom index finger, and using my thumb and fingernail pushing down on the fabric to get that stitch length that I want. And I just find I love hand quilting. I love all hand stitching. I find it for myself very relaxing, very therapeutic. And one advantage of hand quilting is it is portable. You can take it with you wherever you go. Of course, if you have it in a hoop or a lap hoop, if you have your quilt in a frame, you wouldn't be able to take it with you. But and that is, like I said, one of the advantages of having a quilt in a hoop instead of on a frame is that it is portable. You can sit anywhere with it, take it along with you, and enjoy your hand quilting anywhere. You also, and you will see when I get down to the end here, you are able to turn your work so you always have it facing stitching towards you. when you are quilting on a hand quilting frame, you cannot turn the frame. So you have to learn to be able to turn your hand and stitch sideways from both directions, and also to stitch towards you and stitch away from you. But I am now in the middle, ready to turn and go down this log. And that is where I'm saying now I can just take and turn my hoop. Sorry, we'll let it refocus there before we continue on. And place my hand back under there, and I am ready to go now down the other side. Right down the middle as I did in the previous. And we're at that seam allowance again, so that first stitch is going to be a little bit different, and it's a little harder to get your needle to come through all that thickness there, but it is doable. You're just going to have that stitch is not going to be exactly, well, none of your stitches are exactly the same length. We try to get them as consistent as we can, and that's what you want to go for. You want to go for a consistent stitch length. Don't be concerned, especially when you're first starting out, how big or small your stitches are. Just that they are, and you will have your needle flick out of your hand from time to time like it just did there, because it doesn't want to go as nicely through this section right here, which sometimes your fabric just has a little stiffer section to it than some others, and it makes for getting your needle through a little bit harder. I got a thread there that was cut that I'm seeing. Like I said, I normally would be stitching a lot faster than this, but I don't have this positioned the way that I normally would be holding it. It would be a lot more comfortable in my lap. I have it up a lot higher and closer to my face than I normally would, so that we can get this camera angle for you, which makes it look a little bit more difficult than it is because of the angle that I am having to stitch at and look around the camera. But I hope you are able to see enough to get an idea, and it all comes with practice, 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 practice. In fact, when you go to hand quilt on any of your projects for the, when you're starting your day and ready to start hand quilting, I always suggest that you have just a little scrap square or something off to the side that you always start stitching on first, and do a few hand quilt, just a little while on that practice piece, because your first stitches of the day are not going to come out as well. You need to warm up to get a good quilting stitch first when you first start off each day. It's just kind of like a singer has to warm her voice up before she goes on stage. On a cold winter day, you need to warm your car up. Well, when you are hand quilting, you need to warm your hand up to get the rhythm going correctly and nicely so that your stitches come out. That is my suggestion. That is what I normally do, is start by warming up so that you're getting a nice stitch by the time you start hand quilting on your project for the day. And we are almost to the end here. I think you can, at least you can see the rocking motion that I am doing. And I think you can see my thumb here pushing down on the fabric as that needle comes up. And my fingernail is what really makes the needle come up where I want it for the length of stitch that I am trying to consistently get. And I do not put anything. And if your needle goes a little farther than you want, you can just back it up. But what I was saying is I do not wear anything on my bottom finger that is underneath. I like to be able to feel that needle as it comes out. And my thread got wrapped around my pin there. We'll get that off there. I like to be able to feel that. I have better control if I can actually really feel the tip of that needle. And I am at the end of the section here now, so I can show you also how I knot that. And it's just like if you are familiar with a French knot, you're going to take and you're going to lay your needle close to the fabric. You're going to wrap your thread around that twice. Hold it down then close to your fabric. Put your finger on top of that. And sometimes it's hard to get a hold of your needle, and especially when your little tip there has torn on the end and I couldn't grab it. But you're going to get your needle, you're going to hold on to that knot, pull it so that your knot is close to the fabric but has a little bit of a tail on it. And then you're going to pull that to the side so you can see where your thread came up on your last stitch. And you're going to stick your needle right back in there, in between the layers of your top quilt, the batting and the backing, so that it is in between there. And I'm going to go a length away from where I was just stitching. And you're going to pull that through and you're going to pop that knot right through, and you will hear it when it pops. It makes a cute little popping noise, and you know that your knot is now buried between the layers so that it doesn't show on the back or the top. You have no knot showing. It's buried between the layers of your quilt. And you are ready to move on to the next section. But there, I hope that has helped. If you would like a longer video in the future, just comment and let me know that, and I will see what I can do as far as possibly doing some hand quilting while doing one of my lives so that you can see more. And if you have questions, you can actually ask those while I am doing the process. But I don't know if I can bring this up so it can show you. There you can see some of the stitches that have been done on there. If I can hold it still long enough for it to focus, and you can see them. But that is a short and quick little demonstration of how I hand quilt. Lay the thimble there, see if it stays, so you can get a better idea of how the thimble that I use looks. It has the spot, so if you have longer fingernails, they come out. And it has nice, deep little divots in it that help to secure the needle while using the thimble. So there you have it, a quick little short demonstration on how I hand quilt in the hoop on a quilt. I hope you have enjoyed this. Be sure and give this video a thumbs up and leave any questions that you may have in the comments, and I will get to them as quickly as I can. And I will see you again very soon during my stitch tips and chat on Friday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see many of you there. Have a great evening and a great day. Thanks, everybody. Take care. And remember, in the meantime, I can keep you in stitches. Bye-bye.